The station floated in the darkness between stars. It was old. Some said it was built before any living species learned to walk. Others said it was always there, waiting for the galaxy to fill with life. No one owned it. No one controlled it. That was why they chose it for this meeting. Hannah stood at the back of the human delegation. She was young, only 26 years old, and this was her first mission away from Earth. Her job was simple. She was a translator. She listened. She read. She made sure the words meant what they were supposed to mean. It was not an important job. At least that was what everyone told her. The room was large and round. Seats rose up like steps in a circle, and in those seats sat creatures from 40 different worlds. Some had scales, some had fur, some had no bodies at all and floated as clouds of light. Hannah had studied pictures of all of them, but seeing them in person made her heart beat fast. The galaxy was so much bigger than Earth. At the center of the room stood They were tall. Their skin was gray like stone, and their eyes were black like the space between stars. They wore armor made of something that looked like liquid metal. It moved with them, flowing over their bodies like water. The one in front was the largest. His name was, and he was the High Commander of the Dominion. He did not look at the humans like they were equals. He looked at them like they were insects. "You are the species called human," said. His voice was deep and cold. It filled the room without effort. "You come from the small world called Earth. You have only traveled among the stars for 200 of your years. You are young. You are weak. You are alone." Hannah felt the other delegates shift in their seats. They had conquered 200 species. Their fleet had 10,000 warships. Everyone in this room knew what was coming. Raised one gray hand. A document appeared in the air, floating and glowing with pale blue light. The words were written in Galactic Standard, the common language of all spacefaring species. "This is the Treaty of Subjugation," said. "It has 847 articles. Every conquered species has signed it. Every word has been tested by time. It is perfect. It is complete. You will sign it or your world will burn." Hannah watched as the document floated down toward the human delegation. Ambassador Du stepped forward. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent his whole life working for peace. Now he faced an enemy that did not want peace. They wanted surrender. "May we read the document?" Du asked. His voice was calm, but Hannah could see his hands shaking. Made a sound that might have been laughter. "You may read it. You may study it. You will find no errors. No species has ever found an error. The treaty is perfect." The other species in the room watched in silence. Some of them had signed this same treaty long ago. Hannah saw something in their eyes. Was it pity? Or was it relief that today they were hunting someone else? The human delegation returned to their quarters on the station. The treaty floated above the table, all 847 articles glowing in the dim light. Du sat with his head in his hands. The military advisor, a woman named Bora, paced back and forth like a trapped animal. "We cannot fight them," Bora said. 10,000 ships. We have maybe 300. It would not be a war, it would be a slaughter." "Then we sign," said Jin. He was Hannah's supervisor, a man who had worked in translation for 30 years. He looked at the treaty with empty eyes. "We sign and we survive. That is all we can do." Hannah sat in the corner reading. She had been reading for hours. Her eyes moved over every word, every sentence, every article. The treaty was long and complicated. It talked about resources and labor and obedience. It talked about what they would take and what they would give. It talked about punishment for those who did not obey. But something was wrong. Hannah read Article 417 again. Then she read it a third time. She pulled up her translation software and began to compare words. Galactic Standard to Korean, Korean to English, English to Galactic Standard again. "Sir," she said quietly. Jin did not look up. "Not now, Hannah, we are busy." "Sir, I think I found something." "There is nothing to find. The treaty is perfect. The said so themselves. Hana stood up. Her heart was beating so hard she could feel it in her throat. They believe the treaty is perfect because no species has ever challenged it, but no species has ever had languages like ours. Now Du looked up. His tired eyes found Hana's face. What do you mean? Hana walked to the floating document. She pointed at Article 417, Clause 3. This word here. In Galactic Standard, it means to give something when it is demanded, but in our languages we have many words for giving. We have provide, we have offer, we have supply, furnish, deliver, present. Each word is almost the same, but not exactly the same. They do not understand this. Their language has only one word. They think all these words are equal. Jin shook his head. They are synonyms, they mean the same thing. No, Hana said. They almost mean the same thing, and in law almost is everything. The room was silent. Du leaned forward, his eyes suddenly sharp. Explain. Hana took a deep breath. There is an old galactic custom. It is called linguistic verification. It allows any species signing a treaty to request a change in wording for clarity. The change must be to a synonym. The meaning must stay the same. They have allowed this for 12,000 years because they believe their language is perfect. They believe synonyms are the same. But they are not the same, Du said slowly. Not in our languages. No, sir, they are not. Bora stopped packing. What are you suggesting? Hana looked at the treaty floating in the air. 847 articles of surrender, 12,000 years of conquest, 200 species in chains. I am suggesting, Hana said, that we ask to change one word. The lights in the human quarters burned through the night. Outside the windows, stars moved slowly past as the station turned in its endless orbit. Inside, Hana worked. She was not alone. Ambassador Du had called 2 more people to join her. The first was Ho, a man of 32 who had spent his life studying how computers understand language. He had messy hair and wore glasses that he kept pushing up his nose. The second was a woman who studied alien cultures. She was quiet and careful, and she watched everything with sharp eyes. Show me what you found, Ho said. He sat down next to Hana and looked at her notes. Hana pulled up the treaty again. They have conquered 200 species. Each species spoke a different language, but they did not learn all these languages. They created Galactic Standard instead. One language for everyone, one word for every idea. Efficiency, said. They value efficiency above all else. One word is faster than many words. Exactly, Hana pointed at her screen. But human languages did not grow that way. We had thousands of languages on Earth. They mixed and changed and borrowed from each other. We created words that meant almost the same thing but not quite. We created synonyms. Ho nodded slowly. In Korean, we have the word to give, but we also have which is to give with respect, and which is to offer up like a sacrifice, and which is to provide formally. They all mean give, but they carry different feelings. They have one word, Hana said. Just one. They cannot understand why we need so many. Leaned forward. This is true for every species they conquered. I checked the records. Every species in the Dominion developed what linguists call a convergent language. Their words became more simple over time. One meaning, one word. Humans are different. Our languages became more complex. We kept adding words. We kept finding new shades of meaning. Why? Asked. Hana thought about this. I do not know for certain. Maybe because we had so many different cultures on one small world, we had to be careful with words. We had to know exactly what someone meant. A wrong word could start a war or end one. Ho was already typing. His computer began to analyze the treaty, comparing every word to its possible translations in human languages. Numbers and charts filled the screen. There are over 6,000 words in this treaty, he said. Many of them have only one translation, but some have 2, some have 3, and a few have more than 10. Hana watched the analysis run. We need to find a word that the think has one meaning, but in our understanding has two or more. And the difference between those meanings must be important enough to change everything. They worked through the night, brought them food and water. Du came to check on them every hour. Jin watched from the corner, saying nothing. He still did not believe this would work, but he did not try to stop them. As the station's artificial morning began, Ho found something. Article 417, Clause 3, he said. His voice was tired but excited. The subjugated species shall provide all resources demanded by the Dominion. Look at the word provide. Hana looked. In Galactic Standard, the word was clear. It meant to give when asked. Simple, direct. But when she translated it into human languages, something interesting happened. Provide means to supply something that is needed or requested, she said slowly. It suggests obligation, duty. You must provide because you are required to provide. What about offer? Ho asked. Hana smiled. It was a small smile, but it was the first real smile she had worn since arriving at the station. Offer means to present something for someone to accept or reject. It suggests choice. You offer because you choose to offer. The other person can say yes or no. Stood up. In Galactic Standard, these words are the same. The language does not have a word for offer, Hana said. They only have the word for provide. To them, giving is always mandatory. The idea that you could give something and the other person could refuse does not exist in their thinking. Ho pulled up more data. Look at this. Every species in the Dominion signed the treaty with the word provide, every single one. For 12,000 years, everyone has promised to provide what they demand. And because provide means must give, no one has ever legally refused. But if we change it to offer, said, then we are only promising to present resources. We are not promising that they can take them. They will check their dictionaries, Hana said. They will see that offer and provide are synonyms. They will think the words are the same. They will approve the change. Jin finally spoke from his corner. And when they come to collect, when they realize what we have done. Hana turned to face her supervisor. Then we go to the Galactic Arbitration Council. We show them the treaty we signed. We show them that we promised to offer resources, not to provide them. An offer by its very nature can be declined by the one who makes it. We will offer, and then we will say no. The room was silent. Du stood by the window looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 10,000 warships waited. They had guns and missiles and the power to burn worlds, but they had never faced an enemy like this. They conquered 200 species with this treaty, Du said quietly. They believe it is perfect. They believe their language is perfect. They have never met a species that turned words into weapons. Ho laughed. It was a nervous laugh, but it was also real. Humans have been turning words into weapons for as long as we have been human. We have lawyers. We have poets. We have politicians who can make a promise that sounds like gold and turns out to be dust. Is this not dishonest? Asked. We are tricking them. Hana shook her head. We are not lying. We are not breaking any rules. They created a system where synonyms are treated as equals. They created the custom of linguistic verification. They invited us to use their own rules. We are simply better at understanding those rules than they are. Du turned away from the window. His eyes were clear now. His hands were steady. Prepare the request. We will ask for one change, one word, and we will keep the rest exactly the same. Hana bowed her head. Yes, Ambassador. As she turned back to her work, she felt something strange. Hope. For the first time since they had delivered their ultimatum, she felt hope. Not because humanity was strong, not because they had weapons or ships or power, but because they had something the galaxy had never seen before. They had a dictionary. The Great Hall was full. Every seat was taken. 40 species had come to watch the humans surrender. This was entertainment for them. A small, young species from a small, blue world was about to kneel before the Dominion. It happened often enough that it was almost boring. But there was something different about the humans, something in the way they walked into the room, something in the way they held their heads high. Hana walked at the front of the delegation. This was wrong. She was just a translator. She should be at the back, quiet and invisible, but Ambassador Du had insisted. This was her plan. She would be the one to carry it out. Stood at the center of the room. His liquid metal armor flowed across his gray skin. His black eyes watched the humans approach. Behind him, 3 more officers stood like statues of stone. "You have read the treaty," he said. "It was not a question. You have seen that it is perfect. You are ready to sign." Du stepped forward. "We are ready, but first we wish to invoke the right of linguistic verification." A murmur went through the watching species. Some of them leaned forward in their seats. Others made sounds that might have been whispers or might have been laughter. They showed no reaction at all. "This is your right," said. "Many species have invoked it. None have found anything to change. Your language is young. Your understanding is limited, but you may try." He made a gesture and the treaty appeared again in the air. All 847 articles glowed blue in the dim light of the hall. Hana looked at it. So many words, so many chains, but she only needed to touch one. "We request one change," Hana said. Her voice was steady. She had practiced this moment 100 times. Article 417, Clause 3. We request that the word provide be changed to the word offer. Silence. Stared at her. His black eyes showed nothing. No anger, no surprise, no understanding. He raised one gray hand and made a small motion. One of his officers stepped forward, carrying a device that glowed with soft light. "We will verify," the officer said. He spoke into the device. "Provide, offer synonyms." The device made a sound, a single tone. Confirmed. The words provide and offer are synonymous in galactic standard. Their meanings are equivalent. Looked at Hana. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he made the sound that the humans had learned was laughter. It was cold and empty, like wind blowing through a dead forest. "This is your verification?" he asked. "This is the great human intelligence. You wish to change one word to another word that means exactly the same thing." Hana did not smile. She did not show any emotion at all. "It is our right. The words are synonyms. The meaning is the same. Will you accept the change?" Looked at his officers. They showed nothing. They did not need to. This was a joke. This was a desperate, foolish, meaningless gesture from a desperate, foolish, meaningless species. "We accept," said. "Change your word. It means nothing. You are still conquered. You are still ours." The treaty flickered. Article 417, Clause 3 changed. The word provide disappeared. The word offer took its place. Just one word. Just 8 letters in the human alphabet. Just a tiny change in a document of thousands of words. Hana bowed. "Thank you for your acceptance. We are ready to sign." Ambassador Du stepped forward. A device appeared before him, waiting for his mark. He placed his hand on it. Light flowed around his fingers. The treaty recorded his agreement. "The humans have signed," announced. "They are now subjects of the Dominion. They will provide," he stopped. His black eyes flickered. "They will offer all resources demanded. They will obey all commands given. They are ours." The watching species made sounds of agreement. Some of them looked at the humans with pity. Others looked away, already forgetting. This was how it always happened. A new species came. They fought or they surrendered. They became part of the Dominion. Life continued. But one species was watching more carefully than the others. They were called the. They were small and quiet, with large eyes and thin arms. They had been conquered by the 3,000 years ago. They had signed the same treaty. They had been providing resources ever since. Their representative, a being named Sola, watched the human translator. Sola had learned to read human expressions during the conference. This translator should be sad. She should be afraid. She should be broken. But she was not. There was something in her eyes, something hidden, something waiting. Sola made a note in their personal record. Watch the humans. Something is happening that we do not understand. The human delegation left the great hall. They walked slowly, heads down, looking defeated. The watched them go with satisfaction. Another conquest. Another victory. The treaty had worked again as it always worked, as it had worked for 12,000 years. In the corridor outside, away from watching eyes, Du put his hand on Hana's shoulder. "It is done," he said quietly. "It is done," Hana agreed. "Now we wait." Ho was smiling. He could not help it. They did not even hesitate. They checked their dictionary and saw that the words were the same. They could not imagine that we would see them differently. Walked beside them, her face thoughtful. They have never met a species like us. They do not understand that our words carry weight. Our words carry history. Our words carry meaning that their simple language cannot hold. Du looked back at the great hall. How long do we have? Hana had calculated this many times. They collect tribute every 3 standard months. They will send ships to Earth. They will demand resources, and we will say no. And then they will be angry. They will threaten us. They will say we are breaking the treaty. And we will say that we are not. We promised to offer. We did not promise to give. Du nodded slowly. The Galactic Arbitration Council will decide. Yes, and the Council must follow the treaty as it is written, not as they intended it, as it is written, with our word, with our meaning. They reached the human ship. It was small compared to the warships. It had no great weapons, no powerful shields, no armies waiting inside. It was just a transport, just a way to carry a few dozen humans across the stars. But inside that ship, in Hana's computer, there was a document, a treaty, 847 articles of surrender, and one word buried deep in Article 417, Clause 3, that would change everything. Offer. Such a small word, such a simple word, a word that any child could understand. Hana looked out the window as the ship prepared to leave the station. Somewhere in the darkness, the fleet waited. 10,000 ships, weapons that could crack planets, power that had crushed 200 species. And they had no idea what was coming. Hana smiled. It was a small smile hidden in the shadows of the ship, but it was real. One word, that was all it took. One word and humanity would teach the galaxy something new. 3 months passed. On Earth, life continued. People went to work. Children went to school. Farmers grew food. Factories built machines. The news had told everyone about the treaty. The news had said that humanity was now part of the Dominion. Some people were angry. Some people were afraid. But most people simply continued living their lives. What else could they do? Hana spent those 3 months preparing. She worked with Ho and in a building deep inside the government district. They studied every word of the treaty. They built arguments. They practiced answers to every possible question. They were getting ready for a battle, but not a battle with weapons, a battle with words. On the 92nd day, the ships arrived. There were 20 of them. They were not warships. They were collectors. Big, slow ships designed to carry resources from conquered worlds back to the. They took position in orbit around Earth and sent a message to the surface. We are here to collect the first tribute from the human world. You will prepare the following resources for transport: 10 million tons of processed metals, 5 million tons of fresh water, and 50,000 biological specimens for study. The message was sent to Earth's government. It was forwarded to Ambassador Du. He read it in his office, with Hana standing beside him. Biological specimens, Du said quietly. They want our people. Hana nodded. It is in the treaty, Article 512. The subjugated species shall offer biological specimens for scientific and experimental purposes. We changed the word there too. Offer, not provide. Du looked at her. You changed more than one word. I changed one word, but that word appears in many articles. Every time the treaty says the subjugated species must give something, it uses the same word. I changed that word. Once. And the change affected everything. Du smiled. It was a tired smile, but it was real. You are a clever woman, Hana. I am a translator, ambassador. I know how words work. They sent their reply to the collectors. It was short. It was simple. It was the most important message in human history. We declined to offer. For 6 hours there was silence. The ships hung in orbit, not moving, not responding. On Earth, people looked up at the sky and wondered what was happening. In the government building, Hana waited. Then the response came. It was not from the collectors. It was from himself, transmitted from his flagship somewhere in deep space. Explain your message. The treaty requires you to provide resources. You have refused. This is a violation. This is an act of rebellion. Hana wrote the reply herself. The treaty does not require us to provide. The treaty states that we shall offer. We have chosen not to offer. An offer is voluntary. It cannot be demanded. We are following the treaty exactly as it is written. Another silence. This one lasted 12 hours. During that time, more ships arrived. These were not collectors. These were warships. They took position around the planet, their weapons pointing down at the cities below. But they did not fire. Hana knew why. They were proud. They believed in their system. They believed in their treaty. If they simply destroyed Earth, it would prove that their treaty was flawed. It would prove that their perfect legal system had failed. They could not accept that. They needed to prove that they were right and the humans were wrong. The next message was different. The Dominion demands that this dispute be settled by the Galactic Arbitration Council. The humans have violated the Treaty of Subjugation. The Council will confirm this. The humans will be punished. Du looked at Hana. They took the bait. Hana nodded. They had no choice. Their entire empire is built on this treaty. If they admit the treaty can be broken by force, every conquered species might try to rebel. They need the council to say that we are wrong. They need the law to be on their side. And is the law on their side? Hana smiled. The law is on the side of whoever reads it most carefully, and no one reads more carefully than a human translator. The Galactic Arbitration Council met on a station near the center of known space. It was a place of law, a place of order, a place where words mattered more than weapons. 7 judges sat at the high table. They came from 7 different species, all neutral, all respected, all ancient in their understanding of galactic law. The Cent himself. He stood before the council like a mountain of stone, his black eyes burning with cold anger. Behind him stood 3 of his officers and an army of legal experts. The human sent Hana. She stood alone. This is an insult, said. They send a child to argue against the Dominion. Min stepped forward. She was Earth's legal expert, a woman who had spent 30 years studying contracts and treaties. I will present the legal arguments. Hana will explain the linguistic evidence. She is the one who found the truth. She deserves to be here. The head judge, an ancient being with silver scales and wise eyes, nodded. The council will hear both parties. The may speak first. Stepped forward. The facts are simple. The humans signed the Treaty of Subjugation. Article 417, Clause 3 states that the subjugated species shall offer all resources demanded. We demanded resources. They refused. This is a violation. They must be punished. He sat down. His case was short because he believed the case was simple. Min stepped forward. They are correct that we signed the treaty. We do not dispute this. We are proud subjects of the Dominion, and we wish to follow the treaty exactly as it is written. The problem is that the treaty says offer, not provide, and these words do not mean the same thing. A murmur went through the council chamber. The watching species leaned forward. This was unexpected. Hana stepped forward. She spoke clearly and slowly, making sure every word was understood. In Galactic Standard, the word for offer and the word for provide are treated as synonyms. They appear in the same section of the dictionary. They are used in the same situations. But in human languages, these words have different meanings. Provide means to supply something that is required. It is mandatory. You must provide because you have no choice. Offer means to present something for acceptance or rejection. It is voluntary. You offer because you choose to offer. And an offer, by its nature, can be withdrawn by the one who makes it. She pulled up the treaty. Article 417, Clause 3 glowed in the air. We promise to offer resources. We have the right to offer, and we have the right to decide not to offer. The treaty does not say we must give resources. It says we must offer them. We choose not to offer. This is not a violation. This is exactly what the treaty allows. Stood up, his voice was like thunder. This is wordplay, this is trickery. The meaning is the same. Everyone knows the meaning is the same. The head judge raised one silver hand. The meaning is what the words say. That is the foundation of all law. If they believed that offer and provide were the same, they should not have accepted the change. They had the power to refuse. They accepted. We accepted because the words are synonyms. Our dictionary says they are synonyms. Hana spoke again. Your dictionary was written by it reflects your understanding of language, but language is not owned by any one species. The humans brought our understanding to the table. We followed your rules. We invoked the right of linguistic verification. You approved the change. The treaty is the treaty. The head judge looked at the other judges. They were silent for a long moment. Then, one by one, they nodded. The council finds in favor of the humans, the head judge said. The word offer is not the same as the word provide. The treaty says what it says. The humans have not violated the treaty of subjugation. They have followed it. This case is closed. Hana bowed. In the seats behind her, she heard dew exhale. In the seats across from her, she saw turn to stone. They had lost, not to weapons, not to ships, not to armies. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. On 1,000 worlds, beings of every shape and size watched the recordings from the Galactic Arbitration Council. They saw a small human woman stand alone against the might of the Dominion. They saw her speak words that no one had ever thought to speak. They saw the greatest empire in known space stumble and fall, not because of war, but because of a dictionary. Their warships from Earth. They had no choice. The Council had spoken. The treaty was what the treaty said, and the treaty said offer. They could not force the humans to give what the humans had only promised to present. The law was clear. The words were clear. For the first time in 12,000 years, the perfect treaty had failed. But they did not simply accept defeat, stood before his leaders and made a declaration. The humans would never be forgiven. The humans would never be conquered. Instead, they would simply pretend that humanity did not exist. No trade, no communication, no contact of any kind. Earth would be alone in the galaxy, surrounded by enemies who refused to acknowledge that they were there. It was meant to be a punishment. It became something else entirely. Hana returned to Earth a hero. People filled the streets to cheer for her. Children wore shirts with her face on them. The government gave her medals and titles and honors, but Hana did not want these things. She wanted to work. The first message arrived 2 weeks after the Council's decision. It came from the small, quiet species who had been watching the humans so carefully. Their representative, Sola, sent a simple request. We have studied our treaty. We believe we may have signed a similar document. Can you examine it for us? Hana read their treaty. It took her 3 days. On the 4th day, she sent back her analysis. Article 234, Clause 7. The word used is submit. In Galactic Standard, this is treated as a synonym for present, but in the original language, submit means to bow down in defeat. Present means to show or display. You signed a treaty that says you must present resources. You have been submitting them instead. You may have legal grounds to renegotiate. They took this information to the Galactic Arbitration Council. The case lasted 2 months. In the end, the council ruled that they had the right to present resources at times and in quantities of their choosing, not to submit them upon demand. 3,000 years of absolute obedience ended with a single word. More messages came. They sent their treaty. They sent theirs. The species that had been conquered for hundreds or thousands of years began to hope. Maybe their chains were not as strong as they seemed. Maybe the words that bound them also held the keys to their freedom. Ho built a new computer system. It could analyze any document in any language and find the gaps between synonyms. He called it the meaning engine. Within a year, it had processed over 100 treaties. It had found possible challenges in 63 of them. Wrote a book about alien languages and why they had lost their complexity. She explained that most species developed on single worlds with single cultures. They did not need many words for the same idea. Humans were different. Humans had grown up on a world of conflict and confusion, where tribes and nations and empires rose and fell and mixed together. Human languages were tools of survival. Every word was a weapon. Every sentence was a negotiation. The book became famous. Species across the galaxy began to study human languages. They wanted to understand how words could have so much power. They wanted to learn the art of meaning. Hana was named Earth's chief linguistic diplomat. It was a new position, created just for her. Her job was to help other species find their freedom. Her job was to read treaties and find the words that did not quite mean what they seemed to mean. Her job was to teach the galaxy that language was not just a tool for communication. It was a tool for liberation. 5 years after the Council's decision, a new word entered Galactic Standard. It was borrowed from Korean, and it had no direct translation in any other language. The word meant many things. It meant the ability to read the mood of a room. It meant the skill of understanding what someone was really saying, even when they were saying something else. It meant the art of seeing the meaning behind the meaning, the truth behind the words, the reality behind the appearance. Before the humans came, no species in the galaxy had needed this word. Communication was simple. Words meant what they meant. There was no space between what was said and what was true. Humans brought that space with them. Humans lived in that space. Humans had built their entire civilization in the gap between what was written and what was meant. On the anniversary of the Council's decision, Hana gave a speech. It was broadcast across the galaxy, translated into 1,000 languages, watched by billions of beings on countless worlds. "We are a young species," she said. "We are small. We do not have great ships or powerful weapons. We did not conquer the stars. We stumbled into them, barely knowing what we would find. But we brought something with us. We brought our words. We brought our languages, complicated and beautiful and confusing and strange. We brought a way of thinking that the galaxy had never seen. The belief that language should be simple, one word for one meaning, clear and efficient and perfect. But perfection is a trap. When you believe something is perfect, you stop looking for its flaws. You stop questioning. You stop thinking. Humans never stopped thinking. We never stopped questioning. We looked at words and asked what else they could mean. We looked at rules and asked how they could be bent. We looked at chains and asked how they could be broken. I did not defeat the Dominion. I just found a word. One word in one sentence in one article of one treaty. A word that everyone else had ignored because they thought it meant the same as another word. But words never mean exactly the same. There is always a gap. There is always a space between one meaning and another, and in that space there is freedom. They called us young and weak and alone. Maybe we are, but we are also careful. We are also creative. We are also stubborn and clever and patient. We are human, and we read the fine print. The speech ended. The broadcast faded. Across the galaxy, species who had been conquered for thousands of years looked at their treaties with new eyes. They began to read. They began to question. They began to hope. And on a small blue world in a small office, Hannah sat at her desk and opened the next treaty in her pile. There were hundreds more waiting, hundreds of conquered species, hundreds of chains waiting to be broken. She smiled and began to read. One word at a time. To a word. Words have power, and humans had more words than anyone. And in that dictionary, between the words provide and offer, there was a gap, a tiny gap, a gap so small that they could not see it. But Hannah could see it, and she was going to walk right through. Dew stood up. For the first time since they had spoken, there was something like hope in his eyes. One word. Hannah nodded. Just one, and we keep the rest exactly the same.